Good morning, everyone out there. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching this video, for your support, and if you're new, I hope you enjoy and stay. Now, my name is Ryan Freeman. Welcome to my life, and welcome to the conclusion of a European adventure story. My wife and I had a great time in Madeira, even despite getting kicked out of Bob's and all of the getting kicked out by an English giant off of our perfect hilltop in Portimao, being ejected from Panetti Gary's by the Volunteer Ranger Corps, and all of the trials and tribulations that went into this trip that made it the adventure that it was. You know, this was not what we had planned, but it was invigorating, and it perturbed my mind and spirit into sort of creative and insightful depths that I probably wouldn't have reached if I had just sort of had a planned out trip. So I was very pleased with how Madeira and Portugal went, and so we went into Spain by crossing through the northern border on foot, walking across a bridge. And in Spain, it was a continuation of everything that came before. It was flying by the seat of our pants, sometimes having arduous hikes that I regret, and I had to make up to my wife by buying her sushi, if we could find it, and Roman ruins, ancient Roman walled cities, a beautiful Gothic cathedral architecture, Celtic ruins, much older than the Roman ruins. I didn't even know that the Celtics had settled in the Iberian Peninsula, but there was visible traces of their existence there. And for me, a big part of this trip, and I wish it, if I would go back, I would have made it even bigger, was reconnecting with history, reconnecting with my roots. You know, I'm an American, but my ancestors, the vast majority of them came from Europe, and some of them came from Spain. And so us Americans are sort of, especially Californians, are rootless. We don't have a deep connection to our past, to our culture, to our ancestors, to the people who brought us here through millennia of trials and tribulations and story. And so for me, every time going to museums or seeing the ancient architecture, it was very a good feeling, even though I'm ignorant about all of the nuances and the exact classifications of what I was seeing. It was a pleasure to be around this sort of ancient vestige from where my ancestors once lived. And it was a delight also just to see the contemporary modern culture of Spain, to see, I'd always heard that Spanish women were beautiful, and surprise, surprise, they're gorgeous. Beautiful blue eyes, not all but some, with nice olive complexions and gorgeous hair and young hearts and young spirits. And Spanish women would go topless at the beach. My wife joined them, which was you know, it's hard for a Japanese woman to really let go, but my wife totally got into bohemian mode, and she had probably more fun letting her hair down, letting her top off, enjoying the Spanish women in that, and even finding some secluded beaches where we had privacy and could go stark naked. Not that that was our invention, but that's what some of the Spanish locals did. Not on the main beaches. The main beaches were filled with retirees. We were just past peak tourism season, so we were pretty much the only backpackers. There were a lot of retired people. And it was a quiet time at the beach in Galicia. Beautiful place. If there's one place in all of my travels that I would like to go back to and spend a lot more time, could even see myself living for extended amounts of time, it would be Galicia. These rias, these fingers of land that jut out into the ocean. Each ria has its own special character, special beaches, adventurous, woodsy paths, rocky paths, you know, going up on a high rock, jutting over the sea, reading a book in the shade, jumping down, diving in the ocean, walking along the sand, looking for seashells, and going to the cafe right overlooking the beach, and getting You know, I had a special cafe, Anna's Cafe in Playa Limens Playa, that I would order every morning. Cafe con leche, fried eggs, bacon, fresh bread for a great price, great hospitality. Spanish people, very hospitable, very friendly, great prices in all of the restaurants. And supermarkets, you know, weren't open 24/7, you know, so you had to sort of get in the Spanish groove of life. They were closed for siesta in the middle of the day, open for strange hours compared to what we have in America or Japan. So I like Spanish life so much more. It was muy tranquilo, you know, very relaxed, friendly. We saw a fiesta, a traditional fiesta in Limens Playa. We stayed there a long time, 9 days. Took a ferry ride to even get to the Rias, which was always cool. Stayed in a seedy place called, I think it's called Villa Garcia. Just a little, not on the tourist map, port town, but had the best chocolate flautas, crispy, sweet, gooey, and cheap. And every morning I would go to the McDonald's for coffee, and I would run into partiers. First time I ran into people tripping on psychedelics, just coming back from a rave in some other part of Spain, you know, 9 in the morning. I'm waking up to get coffee. They're coming down off their crazy night. The next morning, back to that McDonald's, meet this, just a whole bar right next to the McDonald's lets out all of these people. I'm going for coffee. They swoop me up, and I end up drinking. We end up walking through the drive-thru at McDonald's, drinking beer, swigging. I buy them around. They don't speak English, but we're just yelling, howling, and having fun. Spanish people so friendly. Could never do that here in California, you know. The McDonald's will call the cops. You know, Spain just had a much more liberal, and Portugal as well, but I really felt it more in Spain because, maybe because I went to some of the more less touristy areas, but a much more liberal attitude, a much more free attitude. And if there's one thing I hope Americans can learn from Spain, I don't know about economics or foreign policy or any of that, you know, but in just a style of life, phenomenal, very free, you know. So it would be, oh, this is perhaps one of the downsides, because I do like to get a good night's sleep, but if you're anywhere where there's where there's a congregation of people or residents, sometimes it would be 3 in the morning and I would hear just beautiful young Spanish girls in a line singing, you know, serenading the moon. It was very lively. I love Portuguese and Spanish culture, and I am very proud to be Spanish after visiting that place. You know, every country has its problems. Every person has their warts, unless you get them removed. But I love Spain so much. I love the food. Very cheap. My wife got arroz con choco. We don't speak much Spanish. I know a few words here and there. I knew that arroz meant rice, and so when we would look at the menus, my wife was always craving rice. Because, you know, they have rice in Europe, but it's not up. She wants rice every meal if she can. You know, she's Japanese, of course, you know. And so whenever I saw arroz on the menu, I would say, oh, baby, there's a rice dish. And if we could speak to the waiter, we would get some information. There was a dish that said arroz con choco. So we're like, what's choco? Arroz with rice with choco. What's this choco? And she's like, she shows with her arms, you know, like a squid. Well, it was a squid that shot black ink, because when the dish came, it was just black, soupy rice with black squid. It did not look appetizing. But that was part of the fun, you know. If you know everything beforehand, there's no mystery to life. And if you have everything planned out and everything selected in your traveling, then there's no adventure. Part of the adventure is rolling the dice and just enjoying whatever comes up, whether it's a a tough night on the mountain or a frantic run to the bus stop to catch the last bus. You know, that's part of the fun. And so we did encounter, worries at certain parts. Will we catch this train on time? But everything worked out perfectly. And one of the reasons I love backpacking is that the more I do it, the more I trust in myself and I trust in other people, trust in the world, and see how not scary the world actually is. Of course there are bad things, but when we watch the news and click it through our Facebook feed, we sometimes get inundated with all the negative shit, and we imagine that's a typical example of what the world is like, but in fact, it's not, it's not that it's not true, but it's sort of a concentration that gives us this idea that that's really what the world is like. And then you go traveling, and of course, there are dangers. You can get hit by a truck, you can get kidnapped, you can get killed, but more than likely, you're going to meet friendly, hospitable people if you're open, and you will get to where you need to go. And if you don't get there, you're going to have an adventure some other way. And so I find that backpacking reaffirms my trust in other people, reaffirms my trust in my abilities, and reaffirms my trust in the universe. It's almost a spiritual way for me to go about life. And my creativity was firing. I was doing some of the best writing I think I probably ever did. And I attribute that to the style of living, to the relaxed pace, on the beaches, drinking wine, letting my hair down, letting our, we're always controlling ourselves, with our ego, with our mind. A lot of people say the ego is this sort of inflated sense of self, and sure enough, that is colloquially what we think of as the ego, and it is part of it, but a big part of the ego is trying to control everything and not just letting life be what it is. And I find that when you backpack, especially in very liberal countries, it's easier to let life be what it is and let you be who you are, and go with your feelings more rather than controlling everything with your cortex. And as I did that, as I allowed myself to relax and sort of surrendered to the adventure in front of us, I felt better, more creative, more virile, sex. Unbelievable. So yeah, this was an amazing trip, and we had a good time in every spot, had a time in the capital city of Madrid where we, enjoyed some splurging and shopping and museums, and yeah. Spain was an incredible trip. It was a great way to cap off. I would love to go back to Spain, and I'm very proud to have some Spanish blood. My grandma spoke Spanish to me. She called me Hito, and she smothered me with kisses. My other grandmother came from a German lineage, and she was very, I love you. Two very different cultures, right? Both interesting in their own right, but the Spanish culture with all of the affection, maybe a little chaos, but a lot of love and song. I don't know. Perhaps that part of my blood just is the part that has a lot of exuberance, and I love to touch the land of my ancestors, and I would love to go back. Spain was a gorgeous country. Thank you so much for watching the series and being patient with my videos. Sometimes I was consistent, sometimes not, but I appreciate your viewership, and I hope that you stay at my channel. I don't know what I'll be bringing in the next series. It could be more stories, and it could be just random discussions, random talks. I don't know. I'd like to just explore and play and see what feels right. All right, thank you for watching. My name is Ryan Freeman. See you soon.